Starmer's journey to becoming Prime Minister may well have reached its end, as the few voters who once supported him are now turning their backs and calling for his resignation in unison. It is evident that a leader cannot survive without the support of the people. Now, let's listen to the public's grievances directed at Starmer to understand why his life deserves to be shattered. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the latest news from across the country.
Ladies and gentlemen, the socialist government of the United Kingdom and Keir Starmer really want you to think that they care about your money and they don't want to waste it. So they've decided to set up a new office for value for money, and they've appointed this man, David Goldstone, to be the Tsar, and he'll be getting paid £950 a day. That is £250,000 a year.
You voted for it, and now it has arrived. Change begins now.
Have you ever wondered what would happen if those in power completely stopped listening to the voices of the people? The unfortunate truth is that this is happening right now. Across the UK, a rising tide of doubt surrounds Keir Starmer's leadership, with a pressing question at the forefront. Does his leadership truly benefit the country? The cuts affecting the most vulnerable and the new taxes burdening small businesses have clearly exposed cracks within the system. Here, a strong demand for change has emerged. Currently, a resolute message is echoing throughout the nation. The British public is calling for Keir Starmer to resign. Where is social justice, Matt? What kind of social justice targets pensioners and threatens their very survival? As a former advisor to the Labour Party pointed out, Brown's failures have left serious repercussions. Now is the time to end the winter fuel allowance for 10 million pensioners, a decision seen as necessary but lacking humanity. This is not merely a policy issue. It is a profound irresponsibility towards society. The public has expressed clear opposition, and the moment for change has arrived. Frustration from all social classes is mounting in response to the empty promises of a leadership that appears indifferent to the aspirations of the people. Calls for resignation have moved beyond private conversations to become a public discussion, spreading across the nation. Understanding the reasons behind this outrage is more crucial than ever. We must examine Starmer's policies and how they have led to this difficult moment, along with the bleak future awaiting the Labour Party. One of the biggest shocks has been the decision to cut the government's fuel allowances, an action that truly defies understanding. This allowance has been a lifeline for many elderly individuals. The recent budget has faced severe criticism. Brown has completely refuted the arguments and promises made by Starmer. Why should the public place their trust in such a leader? What has been done in the budget merely repairs the damage left by the previous administration. Imagine working hard your entire life, only to seek a little comfort in your twilight years, only to face the painful choice between keeping warm and having enough to eat. Many pensioners are now living in conditions that make it nearly impossible to get by. This decision is a gut punch to them. Have you ever thought about how it would feel if your grandparents were abandoned in the winter cold? It's easy to forget the justifications leaders provided before the election, why economic growth would support public services. That's why the public was encouraged to trust the Labour Party. This was the key difference between them and Jeremy Corbyn. But now, those arguments seem to have been forgotten. This is not a budget for growth. According to growth reports, despite a strong increase in the early years, it will later decline and only recover after a decade. This is not the pinnacle of what the Labour Party can achieve. Those voices have been heard, and the pain they endure is very real. This issue is not just political, it profoundly impacts the lives of the people. For leaders, these cuts, especially with winter approaching, seem devoid of empathy and completely out of touch. The cries for help are coming not only from the opposition but also from ordinary citizens who feel abandoned. Let's examine what has transpired. A ruthless politics has inflicted suffering on millions. Starmer is facing criticism not only from the public but even from his own party members, who are strongly opposing him. Many Labour MPs have publicly challenged Starmer's policies, particularly regarding welfare cuts and austerity measures. The Labour Party's core promise has always been to protect and support the vulnerable, yet it is precisely these individuals who are bearing the brunt of these cuts. This has led to a significant decline in support for the Labour Party. In just 1 month, the party's approval rating has dropped by as much as 14%. Let this 14% drop sink in, for it serves as a wake-up call for any political leader. Life at the top cannot last indefinitely without listening to the struggles of the people. From all the press conferences taking place, it seems the situation is becoming increasingly grave. Soon, a massive tax hike will be rolled out, despite the government having assured the public during the election campaign that this would not happen. This reality exposes a blatant deception toward the British public, who have been entirely disregarded in pursuit of votes. Now, the true face of the government is gradually revealing itself. Moreover, we cannot ignore reports of lavish gifts worth over £100,000 given to Starmer's wife since he took office. While ordinary families are cutting back on essential expenses, senior leaders are living in luxury. This is a truly heartbreaking image. The party that claims to represent the working class appears completely detached from the hardships faced by those they are supposedly serving. It is not just pensioners who feel this struggle. Small business owners are also facing severe criticism. The government often claims that local businesses are the backbone of the economy and society. However, the recent budget does not reflect this at all. This is not a budget to support small businesses. In fact, it pushes them into a more difficult position. Many believe that this budget will have negative repercussions, as the latest tax policy from the Labour Party has cut tax benefits for small businesses, leaving risk-taking entrepreneurs facing a new barrier. Previously, these business owners could enjoy a 10% tax rate on revenues up to £10 million, but now this threshold has been cut to just £1 million. Imagine pouring your heart and soul into building a business, only for the government to take away a significant portion of the profits you've worked so hard to earn. Think about the feeling. After striving to study and land a good job, now you hear that a large part of your salary will be cut. For small businesses, already operating on thin profit margins, this is not just a shock, but could lead to failure. The reality is that the public has never truly been impressed by Starmer, and as his true self becomes increasingly evident, dissatisfaction will grow. The Labour Party's new inheritance tax policy will weigh heavily on families, making it difficult for them to pass on assets to the next generation. Imagine farms that have belonged to families for generations now having to be sold off because of taxes. If the Labour Party genuinely wants to win votes from rural areas, they have completely missed the mark. These farms are not only businesses, but also part of the cultural heritage and play an essential role in the country's food security. The decision to increase taxes on private schools may seem reasonable on the surface. They argue that the additional revenue will be used to bolster the number of teachers in public schools. However, many families who have saved to send their children to private schools will now have to reconsider their options, making the already crowded public school system even more congested. Public schools are currently struggling with large numbers of students, and adding thousands more could push the system to its limits. This may lead to larger class sizes, overworked teachers, and scarce resources for each student. Ultimately, there will be a hefty tax of up to £25 billion aimed at employers. For those who believe that the Labour Party will bring about positive change, the feeling of betrayal is growing. So what do you think? Is this the leadership we need? Are these policies genuinely beneficial or merely harmful? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to raise a strong voice in our nation's politics.